Hello, you beautiful individuals. Today we are, well, not really doing much of nothing. I'm just making a quick intro for my debate. So yeah, this will be a nice easy one. A couple little things. One, I want not to make excuses. Like I said in the last debate in the intro I made, I do concede that I lost this debate. In my opinion, I lost this one worse than the last one, my first one. I felt like shit. That's really I don't want to try to excuse myself. I just did. I felt awful. My throat was hurting. Head cold stuff going on. Like barely had a voice. I just felt like crap. Did not want to be there. Didn't want to do it. Got pretty snarky a couple times with them. But either way, it was fun. And I might do it again. But some quick housekeeping, if you will. A couple things I got coming up. So we have. Give me a second. Another debate coming up. Oh, exciting. This one is different, though, which is kind of cool. I am excited for this, genuinely. It's the Noah's Ark. The Great. I think that says the Great up there. Can I make this bigger? No. I think it says the Great Noah's Ark debate. Myself versus Professor David McQueen. I don't know much about David McQueen at all. I'm just assuming that he believes in Noah's Ark and is also a professor. That's all I got. You know what? Let's look him up. Why not? Let's do something for this video. Add a little substance to it. You know what I'm saying? Well, from that quick little search I did, from what I can tell, he seems to have worked for maybe the CDC, if that's the same person. Also, he seems to be intertwined with Answers in Genesis, which that doesn't surprise me. But anyway, so I have that coming up. And then also, this amazing gentleman, AJ, or Atheist Jr., he reached out. We had a quick chat over a video call, and we're probably going to be setting something up. It seems to be that it'll just he does live streams where he kind of covers people that have done debates. Goes over their debates and just kind of discusses them. And I've watched a couple. They seem really cool. And basically, I think I'm going to be doing one with him as long as all goes well and I don't, annoy him or piss him off before then. But yeah, so I got that coming up too. And other than that, nothing too exciting. There's another debate I think I have coming up, but that's in the future. That's past this next one, so I'm not too concerned with that at the moment. And yeah. So about this debate with Mr. Hovind, it kind of sucked. Like I said, I didn't do well. So watch it, don't watch it. I don't really care. I just posted just to post it because I did record it, so might as well. Anyway, volume warning, by the way. The volume will be dramatically different for the debate. So it'll be a lot louder. But anyway. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe. And if you make it through the whole debate, you're amazing. And if you don't, trust me, I understand, and you're still amazing.
All right, looks like we are live. Welcome to Standing for Truth. My name is Donnie, and I am your host and moderator for tonight's debate on evolution. I have Dr. Kent Hovind and Ryan Adler here with me for this important debate. This is a continuation in our 2022 Evolution Debate Challenge series. Now, before we get into the opening statements, let's get a couple of short introductions from the debaters tonight. So firstly, gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. And also thanks for giving us your time for this Evolution on Trial debate. Ryan, why don't we start with you? Been a little while since you've been here, a month or so. A little bit about yourself, how you doing today, and a little bit about your YouTube channel.
Yeah, I'm doing good. My voice might sound a little rough. Lost my voice the past few days, but basically not much to know. I'm from Ohio. I have a family and stuff, but other than that, I'm not an expert in any scientific field whatsoever. I did go to college, but that wasn't for anything pertaining to evolution. And yeah, I ain't got much. My YouTube channel, I like to cover what I consider misinformation. Obviously, I've covered Mr. Hovind a few times, usually on things pertaining to the age of the Earth. But other than that, I just cover pretty much anything. I'll play games on there too. I mean, I just make what I want to make. I just like making stuff.
All right, Ryan, I appreciate the intro. I do have your YouTube channel linked in the description box for people who want to check that out. So with that, Kent, good to have you back as well, brother. How have you been? A little bit about yourself and a little bit about Dal.
Well, thank you. I've been great. God's been good. Some of God's kids drive me nuts, but God's good. He's got a strange family, brother. My name's Kent Hovind. I've been a Baptist preacher 48 years. I taught high school science and math for 15 years, and I do a lot of videos on science and the Bible. I'm glad Ryan's working on misinformation, because there's so much misinformation to teach the evolution theory. I got a video number 4, lies in the textbooks. There's over 30 lies that they use to teach kids they believe, in evolution. If you have evidence, show it to me. But meanwhile, don't lie to them. They talk about the stupid geologic column, which does not exist anywhere. They talk about the fossil record, which is no such thing. And there's just no such thing as evolution. It doesn't happen. It's all imagination. So glad you want to work on misinformation, Ryan. I'll help you on that one. Anyway, we have a Christian campground and science center and museum here in Lenox, Alabama. Good luck finding that on the map. Straight north of Pensacola, 70 miles. And we have visitors from all over the place. Visitors this week from, China and Ukraine. And people, I give tours every day. Love it. People come from all over. So come on down, Ryan. We'll give you a tour of the place.
All right, Kent, thank you so much for that introduction. I've also got all of Kent's relevant links in the description box as well as a playlist and a link to our website and the YouTube channel, where we've got all our evolution debates from this year in this Evolution Debate Challenge series. You'll find about 50 to enjoy. So with that, again, to Ryan and Kent, thanks so much for the intros. And we're just going to get right into it. So for the audience sake, it's going to be an easygoing debate. It's going to be relatively informal, free-flowing, lots of back and forth. And we will start off with 10-minute opening statements, though. That way we can kind of set the foundation, lay out the arguments that we will be discussing. So, Ryan, with that, we're going to hand it to you. And you've got, let's say, roughly 10 minutes. And then we'll go from there. So whenever you're ready, Ryan, the floor is yours.
Yeah, sounds good. I'll try not to take the full 10 minutes, since we obviously started just a tad bit late. But other than that, so I know I need to give some points for him to go off of, so I'll just give one easy one that he likes to talk about a lot. Fossils, the geological strata, the different layers, the fact that you won't find certain fossils within certain layers because logically you would assume they're age-based. He does not. And obviously fossils are a good way to learn about evolution, all the different variations of a kind or species or whatever you want to use. But other than that, I just want to say you're going to hear a lot of some extraordinary claims and talking points from my, I guess, competitor or whatever here. You're going to hear, dogs don't produce dogs and cows don't produce cows and all this stuff that has nothing to do with evolution. And at the same time, at least last time, he was fully okay with admitting evolution happens. Things evolve, language evolves, society can evolve. As something as simple as a car or cell phones can evolve. But for some reason, life can't, according to him. I don't really understand it. I don't get what that thought process is, but hopefully we'll learn a little bit about that tonight and be able to discuss it. But other than that, I appreciate having me here and listening to my horrendously raspy voice right now. But yeah, I'm just going to keep this nice and brief so we can get into discussion. So I'll just turn it over to Kent.
All right, Ryan, thank you so much for that opening statement, those opening arguments. And to the audience, I do want to remind them this is round 2. There are some people in the live chat saying this debate looked familiar. So we are live. It is round 2 between Kent and Ryan. Round 1 was about a month or 2 ago. And so also, if you have any questions in the audience, we will be having an audience Q&A. Please just make sure to tag me either at Donnie or at Standing for Truth. And that way I'll be able to save them. So, Kent, we're going to hand it over to you now. And whenever you're ready, we'll say up to 10 minutes. Whatever you don't use, we'll put into the discussion portion, and the floor is yours.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that, Ryan. I'll try to keep it down as short as I can, too. You mentioned why are certain animals found in certain layers. The whole entire misunderstanding of this geologic column, which does not exist anywhere in the world except in the textbook and in the imagination, is the wild idea somebody come up with in 1830 is that the layers form this way and the top layer is younger. Where's the top layer coming from? How can it be younger? Are these layers coming from outer space? All the layers of the Earth formed sideways as the current's moving back and forth. We covered that, last Wednesday was it, Randall? On Whack an Atheist, I give video footage showing the layers forming horizontally in moving water. See, the Earth, I can't find my Earth here. Wow, that's pretty bad when you lose the whole world. There we go. Okay. The moon is pulling the water up on the Earth, making a bump called the high tide. It holds the bump like a magnet. The Earth spins under it, so the tide, people on Earth get to see the tide go up and down. The moon never sees that. If the tide's going up and down, it's also going in and out of that bump. If the Earth were covered in water, like the Bible says it was during Noah's flood, then the tide would not have interruptions like it does now by banging into continents. So the tide would become harmonic and be about a 200-foot tidal change. Right now, the Bay of Fundy in Alaska has got Canada has a tidal change, sometimes up to 100 feet. Typically, tides change 5 or 6 feet around the world, but there are a few spots like Anchorage, Alaska, and stuff like that where it's 30 or 40 feet. But if we had a 200-foot tidal change all the time, the water going up and down is pumping in and out. It's the sideways movement of the water during Noah's flood that formed all the layers. This is what the guys just absolutely don't get, and I don't understand how to explain it any other way, but the entire theory of evolution is built on the false assumption that the layers are different ages and their stupid geologic column, which does not exist anywhere. It's made up. All over the world, petrified trees are standing up, connecting all the layers. I don't know how long a dead tree stands around in Ohio. I'm from Illinois, but down here in Alabama, you get 4 or 5 years. They're about done, okay? So if all the layers formed in 1 year, like the Bible would indicate, well then, yeah, you could easily have petrified trees in the standing position running through all the layers. So why are certain fossils found in certain layers? Why are all the reptiles found in the same one? Well, they have same body density. I think the birds will generally be found on top because birds are lighter than clams. And so they're going to be found on top. This whole geologic column does not exist. This is the Bible to the atheist. I fully understand they will fight tooth and nail to say things like, well, all geologists believe it, as if that means something. There have been thousands of times through history where everybody believed something that was wrong. How many Germans followed Adolf Hitler? Did 55 million Germans following Hitler mean he was right? How about 80 million or 90 million people followed Stalin during World War II? Does that mean it was true? How about all the people today in communist China thinking, oh, communism's good? Yeah, you better think that, or they'll cut your head off. This whole idea that because everybody believes something makes it true is ridiculous. First place, not everybody believes it. Secondly, if everybody did believe it, it still wouldn't make it true. The fact is there are petrified trees in the standing position all over the world. There is no such thing as a geologic column. It is not even common sense 101 to say the top layer is younger. Where did it come from? If I shuffle a deck of cards, is the top card younger because I shuffled them? Moving it from here to here or here to here doesn't make it a different age. So what they do, though, they date the fossils that they find in these layers by which layer they came from. Send a fossil to any university and say, how old is this? They will say, where'd you find it? What difference does it make where I found it? Oh, it makes a big difference. We have to know where you found it to know what layer it came from, to know which, if it's Cenozoic or Mesozoic or Paleozoic or Jurassic or Triassic or Mississippian. What difference? Just how old is it? Where did you find it? I found it in the dirt, okay? Where is it? How old is it? But see, they date the fossils by the layers. And then they turn around and date the layers by the fossils. They assume evolution has happened. They start, I use the word farm, F-A-R-M. It went from fish, amphibians, reptiles, mammals. They say, well, we know fish evolved to amphibians, and amphibians evolved to reptiles, and reptiles evolved to mammals, and then birds. You don't know any such thing. But they've already arranged the animals in order the way they want them to evolve, and then they date the fossils by which layers they come from, and date the layers by which fossils are found in them. There is no such thing as a geologic column. There is no such thing as a fossil record. Those are baloney. No fossils are forming today. How many animals died in the last 24 hours in the world, would you guess? Millions? How many are going to fossilize? None. It takes very special conditions like Noah's flood would provide. The flood, the Bible says the scoffers in the last days would be willingly ignorant of the creation and the flood and the coming judgment of God. The flood explains it all. Just north of me in central Alabama, there's a coal mine with several layers of coal. They dig out a layer of coal, dig through the overburden, dig another layer of coal out. They mine that stuff constantly, I think 24/7, digging coal out of the ground. Hundreds of petrified trees have been found running through the seams of coal. Here's a big tree right on top of a seam of coal. Where's the roots? This thing all happened in a flood, all of it. The layers, they have the Mary Lee and the Blue Creek Formation. A friend of mine's a foreman up there in the coal mine. He said, Brother Hovind, you dig up petrified trees standing up all the time. He said, if you put together the samples, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, it's quite obvious. Sample H goes up through the Mary Lee layer of coal, and A goes through the Blue Creek. But they're both going through this center layer. Hello, a freshman law student could win that one in court. Your Honor, all these layers formed before the tree could rot. That's for sure. I'd say less than a couple of years. Specimen Ridge in Yellowstone, Wyoming, 27 consecutive layers with petrified trees standing up. 30-foot petrified tree. Cookeville, Tennessee. I'm going there in a couple of weeks. Cookeville. The top and the bottom are in different coal seams. But the evolutionists date these coal seams at vastly different ages. They think a forest grows, gets buried in a flood, turns to coal, a whole bunch of more layers form on top over thousands of years, and then a whole new forest grows, it gets smashed and turns to coal. 27 consecutive layers of coal. That's a lot of smashing and regrowing. And yet there's no evidence for that at all. And the coal layers are nearly always, the petrified tree, the coal always seems to be on top of clay, very poor base for trees to grow in. We got clay all over our gravel pit here. So my contention is we go to Joggins, Nova Scotia, and see all the petrified trees standing up. I'm sorry, Ryan, your entire religion of evolution is built on the phony assumption that the layers are different ages, which is just plain logically not possible. If the top layer is younger, where did it come from? Outer space? You guys think the Earth is getting layers on top, like, I don't understand. There is no geologic column. There is no such thing as a fossil record. When you find fossils in the dirt, all you know is it died. You don't know it had any children. You sure don't know it had different children. And petrified clams in the closed position are found by the millions. Up in Cookeville, where I'm going, probably maybe even this week, there's a whole 10-foot thick layer of petrified clams. Millions of them. It goes for miles. Closed. When a clam dies, it opens. They find petrified closed clams on top of Mount Everest. But see, the Bible says the scoffers are ignorant of the creation and the flood. Ryan, the flood formed all the layers in 1 year. The layers formed sideways. Watch, by the way, our YouTube channel's in YouTube jail for a few more days. But they can still watch stuff. We just can't add comments or delete some of the idiot comments. But go to what I did, the Whack an Atheist last Wednesday, and look that one up, where I show video footage of layers forming horizontally. The tidal pumping going in and out would do that in 1 year. So my contention is there is no such thing as a geologic column. All the fossils would have formed rapidly during the flood of Noah or because of the flood of Noah. If an animal isn't buried quickly under the right conditions, it won't fossilize. So I think the whole evolution theory is built on complete lie that the Earth is billions of years old and the layers are different ages. Absolutely not true. Prove me wrong. Go ahead.
Okay. Dr. Dino, thank you so much for that opening statement and the opening arguments from the both of you, Ryan and Kent. To the live chat, thank you so much for tagging me. We've already got several excellent questions already. So with that, we are going to jump into the discussion portion. We'll make this as free-flowing and yet equally timed as possible. Of course, I'll moderate as needed. Kent just ended with his opening statement, Ryan. So why don't we allow you to pick the first topic and we'll go from there. So with that, the floor is yours, gentlemen. Go ahead.
Thank you. So went over a lot there, but you know, most part about fossils and the flood. So if the flood happened and buried all these whatever creatures and trees and everything else and created fossils, so by that assumption, you're saying that what I would consider the oldest possible farthest down layer of creatures and the very top were living at the same time?
Oh, absolutely, yes. There are still clams alive today, and there are clams found at the bottom of the geologic column. There are still birds alive today, and they're found at the top, generally. Yeah. Nearly all the animals that you guys use as index fossils are still alive today. So yes, everything lived at the same time. The world was destroyed. Some animals have gone extinct. I understand that. But yes, my answer, short answer is all the animals in the geologic column, which in your imaginary geologic column, all lived at the same time. If there's any sorting, it might be by habitat. You know, buffalo are going to be found together because they hang out together. They might not be found with, coyotes because they don't like coyotes around them. So there could be some sorting based upon habitat, based on intelligence, based upon mobility, based upon body density. A lot of factors would sort things automatically in a flood, just like this thing. Automatically just sorts into layers every time we tip it over. It makes a bunch of layers. Happens rapidly. So yes, you're correct. Short answer, yes. I think all the animals were alive at the same time.
Okay, so if that's true, and this flood happened, and the entirety of the earth was covered in water, salt water for the most part, all the trees should be dead. And if that's the case, why do we have trees today that are older than when this flood should have happened?
Okay, you're basing on the assumption that it was salt water. Real
quick, sorry to interrupt, but actually I'm basing it on a tree you covered in one of your videos. Not you personally. I was, I don't remember his name, but anyway, yeah, so.
Well, I believe the flood was all fresh water. We do know that the oceans are getting saltier every day. If you watch my video number 1 of my series, I go through 30 different evidences that the earth cannot be billions of years old. One of them is the measured known salinity increase in the oceans. All the rivers are running into the oceans, and they're bringing with them mineral salts. Evaporation only takes out the water, leaves the salts behind. We know the oceans are getting saltier. We know they average 3.6% now, some in different differences throughout the ocean, but roughly 3.6%. And we know that could all be done in less than a few thousand years. So if the whole world was fresh water, Noah wouldn't have to bring water on the ark, throw a bucket overboard, but also the salt water wouldn't be a problem for killing all the trees. I think the flood was fresh water all over, nearly all over. There may have been some pockets of salt water, but then it becomes saltier since the flood. And I think the evidence indicates the oceans are less than, 4,400 years would be the Bible date, and that could easily be done with just the salinity increase. I could call that slide up if you'd like, but watch my video number 1 where I show all the evidence of that, the salinity of the ocean. As far as the trees surviving, trees can survive a flood just fine, especially floating log mats. Giant log mats the size of Texas would be floating around. And when they land, and sometimes I think the flood in some parts of the world might have only been a few weeks. It wouldn't take long to drown everybody. The fact that Noah was in the ark for a year has nothing to do with how long the flood lasted in Lenox, Alabama. The crust of the earth floating up and down during a flood, the crust was broken up. Some parts might have been inundated for a while and then exposed and then inundated again. If the crust is flexing, we know the crust is cracked all over the place with fault lines everywhere. So I think that when you get to heaven, I'll get the video and try to explain it to you about what happened actually. But my theory would be that the earth was all fresh water and it's become saltier ever since. Go ahead.
What about the creatures that can only live in salt water that were alive back then?
Well, there are saltwater creatures today that also have freshwater counterparts. There are saltwater bass, saltwater crocodiles, freshwater crocodiles. I think some animals have adapted to salt water. Most of them don't like it. Most of them have to get ways of getting the salt out. Some of them put salt crystals out their eyes, some in their urine. But salt is generally a nuisance to the animals. Now, some may have become totally dependent on it. But going from a freshwater crocodile to a saltwater crocodile is a really minor change compared to going from a rock to a crocodile, which your religion teaches.
No, it doesn't. Evolution does not teach that at all, actually, but that's beside the point. Well, it doesn't. It's just there's very gradual changes. The issue is what I'm trying to get at here, is the age of the Earth thing. That's the biggest issue you have with evolution. It's the only reason it doesn't work. I mean, you still believe in a form of evolution. You even admitted to me that things do evolve. You just don't, for some reason, like to say life evolves, even though it would have to, because there was only a certain amount of animals left after this flood, and now there's everything we have today. So you still believe in a form of evolution. But regardless, the crust of the issue here is the age of the Earth. That's why I keep coming back to it. And it's just, I'm just trying to figure out how people believe this. It's boggling to me. Like, I just don't understand it.
Okay. Well, two things. As far as the definition of evolution, you said, I believe in a form of evolution. This is the whole problem. You have to define the word. What do you mean? And I show many, many times in my seminar, there are 6 different meanings. Number 6 is off the screen here right now. You have to start off.
Things evolve. That's all you need.
Okay. Well, then you're referring to variations within the same kind called microevolution.
No, I'm just referring to things evolve. Everything, not just life. Everything evolves.
Then the word evolve is too slippery. What do you mean? Do you mean
just like the word kind?
Okay. Well, the Bible says they bring forth after their kind. If they can bring forth, they're the same kind. There are now 4,000 varieties of potatoes. Some have been developed over the years by natural or artificial selection to live in saltier soil. Some live in, more damp soil. Some live in dry climates, cold climates. Some taste sweeter, sweet potatoes. There's 4,000 varieties of potatoes. I think they probably had a common ancestor called a potato. But you guys want to think the potato and the banana and the human had a common ancestor. Ryan, do you believe over millions of generations you are related to a potato?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. All life is related.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's simple, though. But the problem is, that's the biggest problem, is that in your belief, you just don't have enough time. And I don't know what to tell you about that. I mean, you're just wrong. But regardless, and the thing is, you're basing it off of a book written by people thousands of years ago. But anyway, even if this flood happened, there's no proof or evidence for it at all, other than making some things up. And the reason we go with all the scientists you mentioned in your little intro, it's not saying that it's all the scientists, but it's above 90-some% of them. That's more than enough to be considered a majority. That's a very major majority, and that's how the world works with everything. I mean, that's how we define society, essentially. How we figure out moral reasons and laws to deal with stuff is usually majorities. But anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, you got 4 topics on the table now. I'm trying to go one at a time. The fact that a majority believes something, does not ever make it true. You should know that. Otherwise, science could not progress at all. There would be no scientific discoveries when they discover, oh, wow. Now, in 1830, the majority of scientists believed the Earth was only 6,000 years old, because the Bible dates add up to about 6,000. Was the majority of scientists wrong then and they're right now? Or were they right then and they're wrong now?
Okay, so right there. No, they didn't. But even if a majority of them did believe that, yeah, they're wrong, because that's the point of science. It does evolve, and the wrong answers get put out, and you get more correct ones. But here's the difference. Once again, no, it was not the majority back then. But being wrong by a small percentage, or by even halfway, is a lot less than being wrong by 100%, like claiming the world's only 6,000 years old. That's a big difference.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, let's cover some of the previous. You got, like I said, 4 topics on the table. As far as, let's see, the age of the Earth, of course, is absolutely essential. You guys have to have billions of years to turn your frog to a prince. Because your fairy tale of evolution shows very clearly to the kids, I'll show you here, that all the animals have a family tree. You believe that all these creatures came from a single-celled creature like an amoeba, protozoa, bacteria, something like that. The human, the bird, the reptile, the ladybug, the pine tree, and the worm all had a common ancestor. This is what the books teach. What we've observed is there are now several hundred varieties of ladybugs. I agree. There's a lot of different varieties of humans. Some have darker skin, some lighter skin, some blonde hair, red hair, brown hair. There's a lot of varieties of humans, but they're still human. They're still interfertile. There's a lot of varieties of ladybugs, but they're still ladybugs. This is a science. Science, what we can observe, study, test, and demonstrate. We can see this happen, okay? But you want to believe ladybugs and humans are related if we go back to a common ancestor, and there's no such thing. This isn't science. You left science. But all the books say all the many forms of life are related. And you make up these family trees, and this is essential that you have billions of years for the fairy tale to look reasonable. This isn't science. We've observed sharks produce sharks. That's all we've observed. But you want to draw a line and connect the shark to a fern and a starfish and an octopus and say they're related. You want to think an amoeba, protozoa, in this case, turn to a biology teacher. This is from the public school textbooks. I have hundreds of them. I object to them using the observable evidence of variations within the kind to make the kids believe that it goes forever. This is baloney. How's the marijuana?
Oh, it's just nicotine. But
okay.
Not that there would be an issue with the marijuana. I mean, I wouldn't mind some right now, let me tell you. But anyway, so I mentioned this last time, that when you start doing this, you start not attacking, but like basically denying other scientific fields. I mean, right there, to say the age of the earth thing, the reason I always like to come back to it. So now you have an issue with geology and just earth science in general. You have an issue with astronomy or anything that has to do with space now. And that's what I just don't get. Are you saying that just science in a whole is just wrong and should not be taught? Because you like to say that it's just evolution, but it's not. I mean, you're denying a lot here.
Well, again, one topic at a time. I love science. I taught earth science and physical science and biology for 15 years, and I know the subject pretty well. Junior high and high school level, mostly high school. So I'm not against science. I'm against the pollution that's mixed in with our science, like evolution. Yeah, I love the science, but the age of the earth is not provable scientifically. I go through on video number 1. I was trying to find it real quick here, but I got 8 million slides. But the moon is going around the earth, but the moon's getting further away, a couple inches a year, inch and 1.6 or something. They argue with the exact number. But nobody disagrees. The moon's getting farther from the earth. It's called the lunar recession problem. Google it. Okay? Well, that means it used to be closer. What factors could possibly change that? I mean, we could put a string on the moon and hold it in or something. It's something we cannot possibly affect by anything we do on Earth. The moon's getting further. Okay. Well, they've done all the math on this and said, wow, if you bring the moon in closer, gravity becomes stronger, tides become higher, and it's like two magnets with the inverse square law. If you half the distance, you flip the half fraction over and square it, it's 4 times the gravitational pull. At half the distance, it's 4 times the pull. At 1/3 the distance, it's 9 times the pull. Everybody that's done the math on this says, look, about 1 billion years ago, the Earth-Moon system would collapse, they snap together. You cannot have an Earth older than 1 billion years old, maybe 1.2. But you want to claim it's 4.6. It's not possible. Forget the Bible, forget everything else. The moon says it can't be more than 1 billion years old, but you can't turn your frog to a prince in 1 billion years. You got to have more time. The Earth is spinning, but the Earth is slowing down. It's measurable. That's why we have what's called a leap second every year and a half. The Earth is slowing down in its spin. We know what's causing it. The tidal breaking up and down, the internal friction against the underside of the crust, the lunar drag. There's known factors that are scientifically testable. The Earth is slowing down. Google it. Okay, well, that means it used to be going faster. We'll go back in time. How much faster could it go before this would create a serious problem? If the Earth were spinning faster, all kinds of things would go crazy on the Earth. You cannot go back billions of years just with the spin of the Earth or the lunar recession. The sun is burning up a lot of fuel. Step outside and look at it. The sun is burning up 5 million tons a second. It's shrinking 5 feet per hour. Well, go back in time in your imagination. It used to be bigger and heavier. Well, that's going to upset the gravitational balance. You can't have the sun-Earth system being billions of years old just because of the way the sun is burning up its fuel. I cover 30 of those, Ryan, on my video number 1. I'll send it to you if you like for free. You can watch it online. So the point is, there are lots of scientific indicators you cannot have billions of years. Now, if all you said about astronomy and the stars, I cover that on video number 7 for 20 minutes. We don't know the distance to the stars. You don't know the star light's always been the same. They know they've been able to speed up light and slow it down in the laboratory. That's been done many times. They speeded light up to 300 times the speed of light at Princeton. And your Big Bang theory says the universe, the actual matter, traveled faster than the speed of light, away from the rapid expansion. Start off with a proton, expand to everything we see today. You can't fit a gallon of milk into a dot the size of a proton, let alone the whole Pacific Ocean, let alone all the stars and planets. It is so insane that so many people have swallowed this dumb lie that everything came from a dot exploding. There's 30 or 40 scientific indicators you can't have billions of years. And I know if we take away time, that is, where to go here? That's the pacifier to the evolutionist. If you take away, that's what keeps them happy. They somehow can imagine everything happening if you give them billions of years. I'm sorry, you can't have billions of years, and even then it wouldn't work. Nobody's ever seen a cow produce a non-cow. But you want to have a cow and a ladybug related, and you're related to a potato in your mind. I don't know how to help you.
See, you keep saying that we have to have this time. It's not that you have to have it. You just have it because that's how much time has occurred. I mean, that's a fact. But regardless, once again, so all these people, like millions upon millions of people alive today that are studying these sciences, I mean, they're just wrong. Like you're smarter than all of them. Is that what you're claiming?
Actually, Ryan, if I could jump in here real quick, Kent did provide a few examples or lines of argumentation supporting his position of a young Earth. Is there any one of them that you wanted to try and counter, and we can give you equal time to maybe address scientifically, but it's up to you, Ryan. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I will. It's just the thing is, it doesn't matter. He doesn't believe in science, and that's what I'm trying to figure out. If there's any sciences that we can agree on, or if he does believe.
Well, he did use scientific-based arguments to support the lines of evidence he just provided. Now, you may disagree with that, but do you have any science?
To an extent, but he didn't also. Like, the thing is, he's just making claims that aren't true. He doesn't understand the science. The thing with the moon, or you want to go with the sun, or all of the other ones he decided to touch on, he's just misrepresenting or completely just not understanding the science. And that's why I asked the question. If he does agree with any scientists out there, I just don't understand it. It's very confusing.
I agree. You don't understand it. I love science. Absolutely love it. Evolution is not science, Ryan. It is science that potatoes produce potatoes. It is science that potatoes can produce a variety of potatoes. And you can scientifically select for bigger potatoes or smaller potatoes. That's called artificial selection. Farmers do that all the time. It is science that cows produce cows. And you could decide, I want to raise a herd of cows that are all white. And you could select all the white ones to breed, and pretty soon, after 8 or 10 generations, they're all white. You haven't created anything. You already had hair, already had white cows. Now you got all white cows. Okay, big deal. But you can't turn the cow to a potato or vice versa. And science is what we can observe. And the fact that all the scientists believe it, first, that's not true. Secondly, that wouldn't matter. And thirdly, the way science advances is people like me standing up saying, oh, excuse me, I think we're wrong about this. I think I think somebody could make electricity. Whoa, let's try. Oh, that didn't work. Let's try this. And you try enough experiments, and pretty soon, wow, we got somebody says, hey, we can get electricity. All the inventions in science are because somebody challenged the status quo. Yes, I'm not smarter than all of them. I'm smarter than a lot of them. But I think that if they believe they came from a rock, they're not following science. Science is what we can observe and know. What do we know? It comes from the Latin word seer. We know cows produce cows. That we know. We do not know cows and potatoes have a common ancestor. You don't know that. You believe those things. That's where the word evolution has 6 different meanings. Microevolution is a lousy term. I don't think we should use it, but they do. All it is variations within the kind. Bigger cows, smaller cows. They've been trying for a long time to get smaller dogs. I saw one today. I couldn't believe it. Completely useless. This big, little bitty toy cup chihuahua, whatever the thing is. That thing wouldn't last 10 seconds out in the woods by itself. The ants would eat it, okay? It has no chance of survival in nature. It's been artificially selected by man, but it's still a dog. Barely recognizable as a dog, but it's a dog, okay? That's all they've ever done is get variations within the same kind. They're never going to get a dog as small as a flea or as big as Texas. There are limits. Why you guys can't admit, yes, variations happen, but they're limited. You'll never admit that. You think they go forever.
No, and once again, see right there, evolution does not say that we came from a rock. It does not say that a dog will produce a non-dog or a cow will produce a non-cow. That's not what it says at all. You just don't understand it, or more What I should say is you're misrepresenting it on purpose because that's your thing. I get that, and I have no issue with that. I mean, that's your whole shtick. But regardless, it's just not evolution. That's not what it says. It says things evolve slowly over millions and millions of years. I know you don't believe in the millions and billions of years. That's why I kept going back and trying to understand it more from your perspective, because it's just crazy to me. But hey, to each their own, I guess. And the thing with science is not just a definition or meaning of a Latin word. It's a process. Like there's an entire process to them coming up with these scientific theories. And first they start with their, idea, and then their hypothesis, and blah, blah, blah. I'm sure you've heard it a million times. But you either try to oversimplify things or just make them so outlandish, it just doesn't make sense anymore. I mean, why do you keep saying evolution is, we claim that we came from rock, or we claim that dogs produce non-dogs? It's not what the majority of people that believe in evolution, it's not what they believe at all. It's not what they say.
Well, did the universe begin as a little tiny dot, smaller than a proton, according to what the textbooks teach? Where did time, space, and matter come from? Do you believe in the Big Bang? How's that for a start?
Well, kind of gloss over everything, but that's fine. Yeah, I do believe in the Big Bang Theory. And once again, when I say I believe in it, for me personally, that's the best theory we have, and we have a lot of evidence for it. And please don't say a point that exploded into everything we have today. That's not what happened. It was a rapid expansion of the most, smallest bits and particles and pieces of dust that got spread out rapidly throughout the universe and slowly started collecting together, and then eventually, over a very long time, which you have an issue with, formed what we have today.
So did the planet Earth form of those dust particles getting together? How did we get this planet we're standing on?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so a bunch of these things from the rapid expansion, all these particles, which are flying out like spokes on a wheel, getting further apart the longer you wait, somehow they got back together and made a planet called Earth because of gravitational attraction of the particles. Would that be part of the scientific theory?
Sort of, and no. I mean, you have the right idea, but the problem is you're still thinking of it as an explosion. You're thinking of these pieces like just boom and they're gone, like all the way to the depths of the universe. I mean, this is why it's called an expansion. And also, you're just not getting the scale of everything. But anyway, sorry. Keep going.
Okay. So the planet Earth formed somehow from all the particles rapidly expanding. Suddenly, some of them got together to form a planet, Earth, pretty good size, planet. And plus, the other ones are lots bigger. But somehow they got together. Okay, it made a planet. Now, was this planet a hot ball of rock for some length of time during the theory?
Yes, it was a hot ball of rock, and yes, eventually water rained onto it and formed into a pool. That is just one theory for abiogenesis. But still, it's not evolution. Don't think that we just came from rocks. I get where you're going with that. It's fun and hilarious.
It's true. The Earth was a hot ball of rock. The Earth was a hot ball of rock. It cooled down. It rained on the rocks for millions of years and turned them into soup, and the soup came alive.
The soup did not come alive. Organic material formed into eventually what we can consider life. Very, very primitive single-cell organisms.
I know
the soup didn't just come alive and start rising out. Like, it's just. I get why you say this. It's very entertaining, but it's just such a ridiculous thing to say.
It is a ridiculous thing to believe. The soup came alive.
We don't believe that.
You do.
We don't believe what you're saying.
It came from a rock. I wish you guys could admit it. I know you're embarrassed I make it look so, because it's so stupid. It's so obvious it's stupid. A 4-year-old's going to say that ain't true. But you believe
how you're saying it is stupid. It was the materials that eventually formed this organic matter that formed into what we consider life came from the water hitting the rock and the surface of the earth. But that's not saying we came from a rock. It's not the same thing.
I don't know how you can't see it. We got 14 topics on the table now. Okay, Ryan, let's go back to the moon. Okay.
No, we're not. We're just talking about this. No, we're talking about the rock thing. That's what you brought up. So let's keep going.
I'll just hit this and run then, unless you want to comment. NASA.gov, space place. The moon is leaving us. The moon's recession rate. Everybody agrees. Space Answers. Let's see. Spaceanswers.com. The moon is leaving us. Physics.org has an article about that. The moon is leaving us about 3.8 centimeters a year. The moon is leaving us, okay? Well, if you bring it back into 1/3 the distance, you flip it and square it, it's 9 times the gravitational pull. So you go back 1,000 years ago, the moon's 125 feet closer. No big deal. Go back 1,000,000 years ago, 28 miles closer. 10 million, 284 miles. 100 million, 2,000, almost 3,000 miles closer. 1,000,000,000, 28,000 miles closer. And I think everybody agrees that studies this. The moon, you can't have this problem with suddenly it collapses 1.4 billion years ago. Here's the article, Astronomical Journal, a peer-reviewed journal, said the lunar orbit collapses a little over 1 billion years ago. They've known this for a long time. You cannot have 4.6 billion years to turn your rock soup into a human. It's not available. Now, if you want to believe it, fine. Now, as far as the majority of scientists, I'm trying to rescue science from a really dumb idea. They somehow got suckered into believing this evolution religion, and if you don't believe it, you won't get peer-reviewed, and you won't pass the university test, and it's a cult. It's nothing but a cult. It's not, the science is fine. I love science, but evolution is mixed in with science. It's polluted science. So don't say I'm against science. I love science. Give me a scientific question. I'll tell you what I know about it. I taught it 15 years. I'm pretty versed at it. But we don't ever see any animal produce what anybody would consider the same kind. Dogs produce dogs, without exception. But in your imagination, dogs came from a single-celled creature like a protozoa over slow billions of changes. They get a bunch of protozoa and make it into a dog again. I want to see it this time.
Oh man, that was a lot. Anyway, the moon thing. I mean, I don't know why you keep going back to that, but it's you're not taking into consideration the acceleration rate, and that doesn't matter. Anyway, I want to go back to the whole soup nonsense that you want to keep bringing up in the rock, because I just don't understand why you keep saying it. Or a dog produce dog. No one says it's not going to produce a dog. But anyway, no one claims we came from rocks. So I understand that's what you think people claim. So if it didn't, then why is that crazy? But it's not for a giant, whatever, almighty being to go onto with some dust and make a human. How is that more scientifically not only accurate, but how does the mechanics of that work? I mean, none of that makes sense. But
okay.
but to claim that never mind. Sorry, go ahead.
No, fair enough. Good quit. For me to believe that a human being can take clay from the ground, shape it into a coffee cup, bake it in an oven, and turn it into something useful like a coffee cup, I believe that. I believe an intelligent person who's not in the coffee cup, not even part of the coffee cup, can take and make the coffee cup. I believe that. I think I could show you that happen. Okay. Now, for me to believe the coffee cup made itself, that would be insane. Okay. I think intelligent people can take iron ore out of the ground, smelt it down, make steel, make different alloys, and make a car. But to claim the car made itself, I can't believe that. I think that'd be silly. For a God outside of our human body and outside of we are restricted by time, space, matter. The God that I worship is not restricted by any of those. This ain't 2022 in heaven. There's no time. He's outside of it. He created time, space, matter for us, and I'm enjoying it. But God, I believe in a God that's outside of those things. We're restrained. You can't go back 5 seconds. Many times I wished I could. Wish we had a Control Z on life. We don't have one of them. So, but God is not. You're trying to get a limited God who's like us. The God that made you is outside of time, space, matter. The guy that made the coffee cup is outside of the coffee cup. But somebody had to make it. You'd be a fool to believe this made itself from an explosion in a clay pit. It doesn't happen. So life is way too complex to have happened by chance. It had to have a designer. Now, which designer? Is it Allah or Buddha or Jehovah? That becomes a different argument. Which God? I've got the right one, by the way. But there has to be a God. There's no other option. It has to be somebody outside of time, space, matter to create time, space, matter. You got the problem. 13.772 billion years ago, this rapid expansion took place. Well, what was going on 14.7 billion years ago? What happened before that? Where did time come from?
The same thing could be asked to you. What happened before God created everything? What was he doing? Just chilling in a black void? But who cares? Anyway.
Not anyway. Your question is assuming God's limited by time.
I'm saying before he created everything. That's what I'm saying.
The word before the word before nullifies your question. If I said, why are elephants orange? The question's no good. They're not orange. There is no before with God. God is outside of time, space, matter. He made it. So you can't use the word before in the same sentence with God and make it into a question. There is no before with God.
I mean, are you saying he didn't exist then?
It's a nonsense. No. You're still trying to limit him to our time.
No, I'm not. I'm saying, listen. You claim, I don't know why we're on this topic, but who cares? I'm into it, actually. You claim that the world is 6,000 years old. So 6,000 years ago, before the world was here, sorry to say before, but I don't know what other word you want me to use, did God just not exist? Was he not around? Was he in a different universe or just chilling up in heaven? I mean, I'm just curious. Again, I didn't actually expect you to answer any of this, but sure, go ahead.
No. I'll be glad. You still are very limited in your thinking about God. If God is not limited by our time, space, matter, you're trying to limit him by our space. We are stuck in a universe.
I'm asking, where was he then? That's what I'm asking.
He's outside of time, space, matter. I don't think our brain.
Okay, so that's what I'm asking. Before he created it, what was he doing? That's all I said.
The word before nullifies your question. There is no.
What are you talking about?
Before. You are stuck in time just like I am.
I'm not stuck in time. You don't even understand time. It's space-time, for one. It's not time, space, matter. It's space-time. Space-time is a thing. Time was just a concept invented by humans. But that doesn't matter. Let's go back to the God thing. All I'm asking is, when there wasn't an earth, when this wasn't here, when there was nothing, I just was wondering where God was. And again, that was more rhetorical than anything. I didn't expect you to answer it, but if you want to, please.
No. I'll be glad to give an answer. Your question used two words, when and where.
Oh, my Lord.
And was, that nullifies it. You are still stuck with the itty-bitty God that you can control.
No, Ryan, I'm not trying to diminish your God. I'm saying, like, under the assumption that he is this almighty being, it is around, all outside of everything. Cool. I'm okay with that, whatever. But look, you agree that the earth is 6,000 years old, right? That's your idea?
I believe the Bible clearly teaches that, and a lot of scientific indicators indicate that.
Okay, yes. So that's what I'm saying. That's what you believe. So 6,000 years ago, what was going on? Or let's go 10,000 years ago. Well, I know that doesn't work because there wouldn't have been an earth in your mindset, but still, you get what I'm asking here. You're the one that kept diving into this. I was using it rhetorically. Like, if we want to keep going, let's go.
Brian, I completely get what you're asking, and you do not get what you're asking, okay?
What?
You are trying to limit God to time, space, matter like we are.
I am not limiting him. I'm saying he's in this weird theoretical thing I'm asking. I'm agreeing and saying, like, yes, okay, he's outside of space-time. He is this almighty thing that surpasses all. Time doesn't affect him. Cool. But I was just wondering what he was doing. That's it.
There you go. What he was doing is a time-sensitive word indicating he's locked in time. I am doing something right now. I'm spending my time writing things down. You're stuck with a God that is limited. You need to get a much bigger God. God created time, space, matter. Space, time, matter didn't create God.
No, he didn't create time. Time is just a concept made by humans. Right. That's it.
Now, hold it.
He didn't create time.
Right.
Do you know what space-time is?
Yeah. The purpose of the debate, though, is not for me to prove God to you or even to try to.
No, I know. You're the one that went on you're the one that answered the question. I was just going with
you're way off. Donnie, we're way off track. The purpose is for him to provide evidence for evolution.
That's pointless. You don't believe in it. You don't believe in the evidence. You don't believe in science.
Okay, let me jump in, guys. I'll get us back on track. We've got 10 more minutes until we reach the hour mark. Then we'll get into
come on. Let's just keep going with the God thing. That's way more interesting.
Well,
everyone would rather hear about that.
Well, however you guys want to proceed, the topic is evolution is on trial. I know we've discussed.
I know it is, and I get that, but we've already established that he doesn't believe in the evidence. That's fine. There's no point to that. And listen, you're the one that claim on every debate that you want to change or get them thinking right or go with your. So why not do that then? That's what you say you want to do every time.
Go ahead. Before you slap it, Ryan, I do believe in the evidence. I would like to see some evidence of any animal or plant creating anything that anybody with one functioning brain cell would consider a different kind. You believe you're related to a potato, okay? Where is the evidence that you and a potato have a common ancestor? Where's the evidence for this? You can believe that.
All life is the evidence for that. I mean, that's the whole point of it. All life is the evidence for that. I mean, We know that, but you don't believe in that evidence. You don't believe in that process.
I
I
love
can't help that.
evidence. All evidence, you said, now, wait a minute, let me get it straight. All the evidence says that you and a potato are related. Is that what you're saying?
I said all life is the evidence. You and me are evidence of evolution. All life is evidence of evolution, but you just don't agree with that. You don't believe in it.
No. Well, this is where you're confused what evolution is. I believe I had parents that were both human. I believe I had grandparents that were human. I never saw them, but I would be willing to bet $10 my grandparents, great-grandparents were human.
Yes, and if you go back far enough, eventually they wouldn't be what we consider a modern Homo sapien.
That's what I want to see the evidence for. Where is the
You've seen
evidence
it.
for this
I've
charge?
watched you see it. You've done 300 of these. I have watched you see all the evidence and not agree with it, not believe in it. That's just your mindset.
Well, the textbooks are showing our kids, who are very impressionable, that a protozoa turned to a biology teacher and turned to a bird and a fish and a reptile and a frog. This is the family trees that they show, and they claim this is science. This isn't science. This is imagination.
You're looking at that and you're saying like they turned into it. Well, that's the wrong way to look at that. That's just a very oversimplification in either an elementary, maybe middle school, or hopefully not high school textbook. But regardless, that's not. It's too simple, and that's the point, because back then, kids start simply, then you gradually increase. Right. You evolve your way of teaching, if you will. But that's not what it says. Like, it's not going to turn into something else like that. Like, it's going to have very minute, very almost barely can tell changes until enough of them have happened over enough amount of time, or long amount of time, that it turned into something that we wouldn't consider that species anymore. It can't interbreed with its parent, with the past species. But regardless, and you complain that we're teaching kids this, but you're teaching kids that we came from some dude going into some dust, and that the world's only 6,000 years old. Why is your way okay?
Well, it's very hard to be right on everything, but I've been doing it for so long, I'm getting pretty good at it, okay? This textbook shows the kids the turtle and the lizard and the snake and the bobcat and the bird have a common ancestor, and it shows a high school biology class showing it going back to an early reptile. Do you believe the birds and the turtles are related?
Yeah, I mean, it makes way more sense than they all got destroyed in a flood and then all of a sudden popped up 4,000 years later.
So that makes way more sense. Okay. Well, where's the evidence for this being true?
Once again, all the evidence. Fossils are evidence. DNA is evidence. Here's the issue. You don't believe in it. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, that's not my fault. You were taught the wrong way, or you learned the wrong way, and now you're here. But why is your way okay? Why is your way right?
Well, like I said, I've been right for so long. I'm getting good at it. But nobody. This
what are you
book
right
shows.
About?
Listen, okay. Protozoa. Are there still protozoa in the world today?
Oh God, here we go. Yes, there is.
Are there protozoa alive today by the trillions?
Yes, and there's a bunch of different kinds or variations or whatever. Okay. And no, they won't just turn into a dog magically, because that's not what evolution says for the millionth time.
Well, for the millionth time, yes, it is what they say. They show it.
No, it isn't.
No, raise a bunch of protozoa in the laboratory and make them change to anything but a protozoa. It doesn't happen. You imagine that the protozoa could slowly, over millions and trillions or quadrillions and sextillions of generations, turn into a frog.
No, I believe that it'll get enough changes will happen to it that it'll eventually be a different life form from what it started out as millions and billions of years ago. But that's not the same thing as saying it magically turns into a frog, and then those will split off to a bunch of other different kinds.
I didn't say it magically turned. I'll give you trillions of years.
Don't need trillions. It's only billions. Okay. It's only about 13.9 billion for the universe.
Right. I'll give you 4.6 billion. Okay. Show me the evidence of any animal changing to something that anybody would consider a different kind.
I mean, you and I are the evidence. I've already said this. Like, if you go back to your whole grandparent, great grandparent, blah 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 blah, eventually you will get far enough back that what you find is not considered what we consider Homo sapiens, a modern human. It'll have enough changes. It'll that it's a different life form, a different species, a variation, a kind, whatever stupid word you want to use. But you just don't believe in that. So and I get why not, because you believe we came from Adam and Eve, but that's not scientific. That doesn't teach anything. You can't test. It can't be falsified. Like, that's pointless to teach. It is because it's not true. But so what about all these forms of not quite apes or not quite humans or whatever? What are they then? If they're not in the evolutionary chain, because like we would consider, that makes sense. So are you saying they're just random life forms that died out? And
I
if
think
so, go ahead.
Most of the things that they're calling human ancestors, like ape-like ancestors, have been proven to be frauds or misidentified or fully human, fully ape. Well, are there any alive
that
today?
haven't been proven to be falsified? You just find one little thing that says it might be or leads to that, and then you run with it and say, "Oh, that's what they think now." But that's why there's a majority. That's why it is. That's why it works like that.
Well, I cover this on
the word of some one dude.
On my video number 1 and 2, I cover this in great detail. Things like the Piltdown Man, they said it was a missing link, and it turned out to be a tooth from a pig. They're real desperate to want to find missing links.
You're taking these very weird and off things that happened. What about all of them that they found? There's been a lot of them. It's not just one. They found entire skeletal structures that were definitely not human, but definitely not ape-like either. They're a little bit in between.
If they find an entire skeleton that is not human, not ape, but it appears to be what some anatomist would say halfway between the two. Does that prove it is a transition, or could it be an extinct species? Something died off.
It's both. It was a transitional species that went extinct. And regardless, say if our DNA testing is so good that we can test as far back as we want and all this stuff, if you find out that you are related to them 100% through DNA testing, would you then believe in it, or are you still just saying something else happened? Those scientists don't know what they're talking about, like all the other millions of scientists don't.
Well, if I did an analysis of this coffee cup and found out it's made of clay, and did an analysis of something else made of clay, I think I could find they both came from clay. Does that prove they're related, or they're common design?
Well, they should be related to you, right? Because I mean, you believe we came from dust or clay or whatever, so they should.
I believe God. I think God can take dust and make it come alive. I don't think the dust can come alive by itself. I don't think the coffee cup can make itself.
No one said it made itself. It happened through a process. Once again, if you're going to go to abiogenesis, the process we consider the most likely is the whole rain falling off onto the surface of the earth, pulling together and forming what we consider life.
So you do believe you came from a rock?
No, I just explained what I believe, but you're too simple-minded to either hear me or comprehend it, apparently.
I heard you fine. I believe an intelligent person made this coffee cup and even named it right, Dr. Kent, the science gent. That's wonderful. I believe
Mister, definitely not doctor. You need a doctorate for that.
I got 4 of them, but that's okay.
Well,
you don't have
a diploma mill.
If somebody goes to college and believes they comes out believing they came from a rock, I don't like their doctorate either, but that's okay. That's unrelated. That's an ad hominem attack. Let's just skip that. I think you have said that you believe these single-celled life creatures, some of them, whichever one, there's 20,000 different kinds of single-cell creatures, slowly somehow added information and became everything we see today. The textbooks show a single-celled creature, pick which one you want out of the 20,000, slowly. How did it grow arms and legs and a brain and a heart and lungs and a pancreas and a prostate gland? How did this happen? Show it to me. There are still plenty of single-celled organisms today. The world's full of them. We can make a new generation every 8 hours with some of them. You could sit in your laboratory and in one lifetime watch probably 1 million generations of amoeba. Why do they never?
In one lifetime of a human. That's just not enough time. Don't know what to tell you. It just isn't.
Show me an amoeba becoming anything but an amoeba. Where's the evidence for this?
You're not going to see that. You will potentially see. Well, amoeba is a bad word. I'll just go with protist to be more general. You will potentially see one with a variation and a change. I mean, I went over that last time with you, but you didn't believe that either. So you will see changes and variations in them, and maybe even if you're lucky, a kind that changed or evolved into one that won't be able to produce offspring with the parent organism. But that's it's still, that probably won't, because it's just not enough time. And I know you don't like that word, but it's just how it is.
Oh, no, I love it because it shows you have a religion.
No,
Long
there's
ago-
no social
Yeah,
structure. There's no worshiping anything. It's not a
Oh, yeah,
religion. It isn't. It's a scientific
You work-
theory that you don't
You work
comprehend.
Time is your God. I believe
No,
God.
it isn't.
A man,
Time
a
is
man
a
can make
process
coffee,
made up
Doug.
by humans.
Well, Ryan, I just want to make sure, because a little bit of crosstalk, the echo starts. Okay, go ahead,
Okay.
and then Ryan will throw it back to you after.
Well, I believe an intelligent human can take clay and make a coffee cup. I believe a God can take clay and make a human. I don't believe that the clay can make a human by itself with any amount of time. No amount of time. Okay? Not going to happen. Go ahead.
I mean, yeah, it definitely wouldn't happen, because that's not what evolution say would happen. But yeah, once again, you just don't comprehend it. I got nothing for you, man. You just don't understand science. I mean, you might understand that it came from the Latin word to know, or whatever nonsense you want to throw out there, but you don't understand the process, obviously. But truthfully, I think you do. You just misrepresent it and all that for the money and stuff. I get that. You know, the entertainment and all that. So I do believe that you understand it.
No, I do understand it, and it's not entertainment. This is serious. You understand Pascal's wager. Ryan,
Black and atheist,
Pascal's
so
wager.
serious.
If I'm right and there's a God, you're in trouble. If you're right and
No,
there's no
I'm
God
not.
and we're nothing but dust, I didn't lose a thing. I had a wonderful life. But you guys do believe you came from a rock and primordial soup. This is the theory. This is what I'm saying isn't science.
So
It's
why am I in
religion.
trouble? Why am I in trouble? Because I'll go to hell? Big deal. You don't even
Well,
know what hell is. You know why is hell so bad? Why is the devil so bad? What did
All
he
right,
do?
enjoy it. Hey, you enjoy it when you get down.
I
there.
mean, you
Okay.
know, if you ain't there, I'll be pretty happy.
Okay, I'm sure. I promise I deserve to be there, but I won't be there. So you just see how happy you. We'll see how happy
Nobody
you
will
are.
be there because it doesn't exist. But even if it does, that still doesn't change the fact that the world is billions of years old. Things evolve, not just life, everything. I don't know. You just don't believe that for whatever reason.
I get it completely. I think variations happen within the kind. There are 4,000 species of potatoes. Somebody decided to call it a new species. Okay, it's still a potato. And there's, I think, only one species of humans. There's lots of different colors, lots of different sizes. There's eye colors, hair color, etc. But they're still humans, still infertile. But you believe you're related to a potato.
The problem with that is, though, is that there's even if you want to go with kinds and group every close to enough species that you can group together that you want, that'd be tough to do. But you can do it. Even all the different, you know, not just dogs, but like wolves, coyotes, foxes, everything else, and put them all together as a dog. Whatever you want to do, I don't care. There wasn't enough of them on the ark to turn into what we have today. So you still have to believe in some form of evolution, even if it is rapid. You still believe in it.
Well, this is again back to the definition of the word. Microevolution is a lousy term. I believe all the 1,000 kinds of bananas could have come from a banana. I believe all the 60 kinds of eagles could have come from an eagle. I think all 600 types of oaks could have come from an oak. But that doesn't mean an oak and an eagle have a common ancestor. Do you believe an oak tree and an eagle have a common ancestor?
Yes, of course I do. And once again, so let's stick with the trees. Then how do we have what we have today? All the trees would have been dead and gone. Where'd they come from? Did God just go like that, pop them up?
I think
like this isn't scientific. That's the big issue. This is why I have such a problem with it. Your theory or your entire worldview has no science behind it whatsoever. You can't even explain it scientifically.
So I can explain it. No, a designer created the oak trees with a really complex gene code. I mean, all the scientists in the world today could not make an acorn.
So he created the oak trees after the flood?
Well, no. All the scientists today couldn't make an acorn. That acorn has the DNA knowledge and code to make a whole tree full of acorns. But you get all the scientists in the world say, I want you to start from nothing but chemicals and make an acorn. They can't do it. I think the acorn has a code that some of them produce, you know, harder oak, softer oak, white oak, black oak, pin oak. There's 600 kinds of oak. I believe they had a common ancestor called an oak tree. That code is amazing. I think a designer had to make that. 8 different kinds of bears might have had a common ancestor, a bear. But you believe an oak tree and a bear are related. I know you believe you're related to an acorn.
Yeah, and you believe some dude just went bam and made some trees after a flood, apparently. There's no
Correct.
science behind that. That's the whole issue. Like, what are you teaching kids then?
Ryan, the science is what we observe. We observe oak trees always produce oak trees without exception.
But you didn't observe a flood or even have any evidence for it, but yet you believe in a flood.
Well, I know you don't want to believe in the flood because that represents the judgment of God on man's sin. But you don't.
No, I don't care about that. There's no evidence for it.
You, Ryan, it's coming for you too. You're going to be judged one day. I'm trying to help you. You don't want help? Great. The bridge is out. Okay, you're headed for a bridge out. You want to keep driving? Keep driving. But I'm warning you, you're headed for problems. That's not the purpose of this debate. Where is the evidence that you are related to a potato? You claim you are. Where's the evidence for this? Nobody ever sees a human make a non-human.
And let me jump in real quick.
Go ahead with questions and answers if you want. We're getting nowhere here. But
it's been a fun discussion for sure. We're a couple minutes over on the discussion portion. So why don't we, any final points or thoughts that we do want to make? We've got, let's say, 3-minute closing statement. So we'll do so there. This will be a good time for us to wrap everything up that was discussed in this discussion portion, which we've done for about an hour. So Ryan, go ahead. We'll start with you. Let's say 3 minutes. We'll give Kent 3 minutes, and then we'll do some audience questions. So go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, I just want to say, of course, thank you again for having me, and even Mr. Hovind for debating with me. I know it's, probably better ones to do it with out there, but I enjoy it nonetheless. It is fun to learn your worldview. But anyway, as you've seen, once again, he just doesn't care or believe in the science and just provides more nonsense with that not only doesn't have any evidence or science to back it up, it couldn't because it's, not falsifiable. But anyway, I'll keep it short. I know we went over and started late, so let's just get into the questions. Or sorry, to Mr. Hovind's closing and then to the questions. Thanks again for having me. I do really appreciate it.
Okay, Ryan, thank you for those final words. And we do have a lot of excellent audience questions. So for Kent's 3-minute closing statement, this is the audience's final opportunity to send in those questions. So Kent, we'll hand it over to you. Let's say 3 minutes, and the floor is yours.
Okay. The term they use, microevolution, is changes within a species or small group of organisms. I believe variations happen, but they're still obviously the same kind. The 4,000 varieties of potatoes are obviously a potato. They grow in the ground. They don't grow on trees. They don't grow on the back of cows. They're still a potato growing in the ground, okay? And if you want to believe you're related to one, great. But microevolution, I think, is a lousy term. We shouldn't use it because of the confusion goes on in people like Ryan's mind. He believes microevolution is evidence for evolution. It's evidence there's variations within the kind. The idea that there are transitional fossils, evidence for something changing to something else, first place, no fossil could count. No fossils count. All you know is it died. You don't know it had any children. You certainly don't know those bones you found in the dirt had children that were different than themselves. No animal today can do this. Why can no animal today produce anything other than its kind? Cows produce cows without exception. But in your imagination, long ago, far away, it's fairy tale, absolute fairy tale stuff. Yes, boys and girls, the princess kissed the frog and it turned to a prince. Now that we know is a fairy tale. But in your fairy tale, if you take the frog and wait billions of years, it'll turn to a prince. Same fairy tale with a new magic ingredient called time. No fossils count as evidence for evolution. All you know is it died. Why can't they make this happen today? Why don't we get a laboratory, make life again out in the laboratory? If it can happen in a warm pond on the earth, do it again. Why can't they make life? Just any life. Let's see it. Why can't they make any single-celled creature turn into a human again? Oh, it takes too long. Well, then it isn't science. Science is limited to what we can observe, study, test, and demonstrate. Anything outside of that is imagination, even if it's true. Even if it later turns out to be true, it so far isn't in the category of science. And evolution is not part of science. It's a fairy tale for grown-ups. And I'm sorry you fell for it. Okay? Go ahead. Donnie, go ahead. What happened here? Oh,
I'm here. I'm here. I just stepped away for 2 seconds to get some water. So, okay. We're all good. Thank you, Ryan and Kent, for those short and sweet closing statements. Okay, let's get into some questions. We've got lots. Okay, so let's start here. Ryan, as you probably remember, whoever the question is for will make sure they get the last word, but both debaters will have the opportunity to respond. So first question comes in for Kent. From Creationist Crybaby, and CC's got a question. The question is, if two species of squirrel can no longer interbreed, how do they fit the definition of kind in the Bible?
Well, if somebody sees the Kaibab squirrel and the Abert squirrel on opposite sides of Grand Canyon and notices they're still squirrel, the fact that they're still classed as squirrel would be, I think enough for a 4-year-old to say that's the same kind of animal. Can they interbreed? They might. I don't know that. I think those two can. There may be some examples, like for instance, Great Dane and Chihuahua. There are probably some mechanical problems there. He can't reach high enough if she's the female, the Great Dane, but he probably wants to try. But they probably genetically could. I bet you could artificially inseminate a Great Dane with a Chihuahua sperm and make a puppy. It'd be pretty dumb to do such a thing, but they could probably do it. Okay, so I think they're still within the dog kind. I think if you could get some that can no longer interbreed, you have a variation in what is still obviously the same kind. I don't have to defend the Bible definition of kind. It's guys like Ryan who believe the squirrel and the Great Dane and the bird have a common ancestor. That's what's not science. That's what's nonsense. These family trees, if you could get a branch on a tree where they can no longer interbreed, okay, great. Maybe that could happen. So what? It's still obviously the same kind. And I don't have to defend the Bible definition of kind, but this isn't science. That's all. This is imagination. They draw lines on paper, and the kids believe it because they've been taught it since kindergarten. It's a real thorough brainwashing program. That's all it is.
Okay, thank you for that response there, Kent. And Ryan, over to you. If there's anything you'd like to add, go ahead.
Yeah, honestly, I was just curious to why he didn't answer the question. But no, he's right. There are not just squirrels, but species. Well, originally species of animals that have, evolved and can no longer interbreed, and that was the point. That if they're still part of the same classification, what are they? Are they still a kind or are they not? I mean, that's why kind is such a rough word. I mean, there's no strict definition to it.
Okay, so thank you, Ryan.
And you think, Ken?
Well,
go ahead, Ken.
My parents produced 3 boys. We cannot interbreed and produce a baby. But we're still the same kind, called human. How about that for a crybaby, creationist crybaby? Are my brother and I the same kind? We can't interbreed. I'm not talking about San Francisco now. I'm talking about here, Lenox, Alabama. Okay. Are we the same kind? Creationist crybaby? Yeah, we are. It's obvious to a 4-year-old. So the squirrels are still squirrels.
Okay, thank you for that final word there, Kent. And next question comes in from George Bond. So we got a healthy amount of questions for the both of you, Ryan and Kent. So George is asking you, Ryan, how do you explain oceans with only 3.6% salt? If the Earth is 4.5 billion years old, nothing would survive in the oceans with the resultant salt content. Go ahead.
Well, they would, because they do. And the world is that old, and that is, what do you mean here? Like, are you saying that there should be more salt because the world is that old? If that's what you're saying, no, there shouldn't be. The world is that old, and what we have is what we have. Like, there's no, I mean, if you'd have provided some kind of anything that says that it should be somehow older, maybe, but it's not. Or I mean, not older, more salt. But it's just not. That's not how it works. Don't know what to tell you.
Okay, thanks for the response there, Ryan. Appreciate it. Kent, over to you if you had a response.
I have a good response. I've got evidence right here, and if I can find it in my 10 million slides in my PowerPoint. But video number 1, I show clearly where they show the scientific evidence is the oceans are getting saltier. It's intuitive, first of all. Mineral salts wash off the ground into the rivers and end up in the ocean. All the rivers end up going into the ocean at some point. So it's intuitive that the salt from the minerals in the ground would get into the ocean. Everybody agrees with that. And then evaporation only takes out fresh water. It's called the distillation process. We've known for a long time the oceans are getting saltier. They've done tests on it. I've got the slides here somewhere if I can find it real quickly. But watch my video number 1 where I show it. Yes, the oceans could have gone from completely fresh water to 3.6% in a few thousand years. easily. Now, if someone wishes to believe it's billions of years old, they have a problem to answer. Why aren't they saltier? They should be real salty by now. The Dead Sea is dead because of the salt in it. It's way too much salt. So it killed itself, okay, committed suicide. So yes, the oceans are getting saltier, and I think that's clear evidence that it cannot be billions of years old. I'll look it up some other time, but just Google ocean salinity. What is it? How much is it gaining every year? How long would it take? A couple thousand years, all you need. If you want billions of years of rivers bringing salt in, evaporation taking water out, going up, raining again, bringing more salt in, you got a problem to explain. I don't have a problem with it.
Okay, thank you, Kent, for that response. Ryan, question was for you. So to be fair, you get the final word. Go ahead.
Yeah. It once again, it's about the rate at which it has been gaining saltiness, if you will, and the evaporation thing. Not all water rains over land, so it would rain over the ocean as well. But still, it's not. To say that is ridiculous. You didn't provide any evidence. You just read something that said a thing, but that's not what the majority of scientists believe, for a reason, because the world is 4.5 billion years old, and it is as salty as it is. There's nothing else to argue there.
Okay, thank you for that final word, Ryan. Next question comes in from Taylor K. Taylor, thanks so much for the question. Questions for you again, Ryan. She's asking, do you believe that all of the symbiotic relationships present in the world are required to sustain life or occurred by random chance?
Well, what does she mean by that? The symbiotic relationships. Are you talking like how, I guess the ecosystem of everything, like how life requires other life and stuff, prey and all that? Sorry, I've not heard that. As I said, not an expert.
Yeah, like it's an argument Kent likes to put forth. Kent, if you wanted to quickly cover it, how life basically needs life. Bees need the flowers. There's symbiotic relationships that.
Okay, that's what I was reading it as, but I just wanted to clarify for sure. So that is, I guess you can say it is random chance, but also not, because they are based off of each other and they require each other. The ocean is a great example of that. For basically the ocean, all life should essentially equal in mass or weight to other life. Like the amount of, say, blue whales is going to be equal to the amount of the smallest life forms like plankton and other even smaller ones in mass or amount, not actual number of population, obviously. So, and they do need that balance. And if they don't, you see the oceans getting saltier and getting, oxygen getting less, more pollution, all that stuff. And it's what's happening. And that's what is happening in the ocean right now. Overfishing is the major issue, but there's others as well. But no, I guess I would say, yeah, I believe it happened by random chance, but random is also, it's not the best word. I mean, like all these random changes, they were random to an extent, but again, it was more, what was happening at the time they were alive and in their environment and all that stuff. But anyway, yeah, I'll just say yes, by random chance.
Okay, thank you for the response there, Ryan. Taylor, thanks for the question. And Kent, over to you if you had anything to add.
There are literally millions, possibly billions of symbiotic relationships. The plants breathe in carbon dioxide, give off oxygen. All the animals breathe in oxygen, give off carbon dioxide. They reciprocate the gases. That's called a symbiotic relationship. The bees pollinate the flowers. The flowers produce the pollen for the bees to make the honey. How did the flowers get pollinated before the bees came along? Okay. How did the bees make their honey before the flowers came along? This is an example of literally millions and possibly billions of what anybody just Google symbiosis, symbiotic relationships, okay? It doesn't work unless they're created quickly within a few days of each other. I think the nut was created to fit the bolt. One's no good without the other one. Which came first? They made it by the same guy at the same time. So I think God created the world with millions of symbiotic relationships just so there'll be no excuse judgment day. When he says, you believe this coffee cup came from a dot smaller than a proton? You really, why would you believe something so dumb? Who taught you that? Get your money back, son. This was dumb. I think there's going to be no excuse judgment day for all of those who say, wow, I believe we came from a dot of near nothing, rapidly expanding. I'm sorry, almost said exploded. Okay. I believe that's going to be, you're going to realize, wow, I was duped. Yep, duped. So I think the symbiotic relationships are impossible to explain by evolution.
All right. Thank you for the response there, Kent. And Ryan, question was for you. You can have a quick final word.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason you're answering it like that is, once again, you're assuming that the world is only 6,000 years old, and you're making that mistake. To assume that they all happened at once is to also assume that they were all alive at once, and they weren't. There were different symbiotic relationships when there were different life forms alive that eventually went extinct for one reason or another. Not because of a giant flood, but still. So yes, we do have these symbiotic relationships, but that does not in any way disprove evolution, because there will be different ones today than there was in the past, and there will be different ones in the future than there are today. I mean, bees and flowers are a great one. The bees are, they're in danger. Some are going extinct. When they're all gone, what do you think is going to happen? All the flowers are going to die? No, they're going to evolve and turn into flowers that can survive without them, hopefully.
Okay, thank you for that last word there, Ryan. Next question comes in for Kent, and this one comes in from Chris Peacock. So I've got it up on the screen here, and he is asking, how do you get the millions of species of animals from the thousands off of the ark without evolution?
Great question, fair question. I don't have to defend that, because I'm not requiring that to be taught in public schools. I think they want to get their thousands of species of animals from a rock. I think that ought to be defended. But okay, back to the point. I think what we've seen with natural selection and human artificial selection is so obvious. I had a family meet me speaking someplace years ago. I said there are now 350 breeds of dogs in the world. Most would not survive on their own in nature. Most have been created by man for some particular reason, and you got to babysit them now for the rest of their life. Like my wife's incredibly stupid pug that she paid money for, okay? Why would anybody do that, okay? Dumbest dog in the world. Anyway, it's a pug. They got pugs all over the place. Pugly, ugly. But so I think that changing from a original dog kind to a 300 varieties of dogs, this family that I was mentioned, I showed that there's 359, I think, breeds of dogs. And this lady said, Mr. Hovind, our family's in the dog raising business. We've had a kennel for 100 years. Grandpa started it, great-grandpa started it. Anyway, she said, I can tell you right now, within 100 years, you give us 30 or 40 generic dogs. Pick them out of anywhere. Give us a dog. We will, in 100 years, recreate all the breeds today. Chihuahua, Great Dane, Doberman, we can make them all in 100 years through selective breeding. But they're always going to be a dog. Natural selection is where the cold weather survives, the one with long fur to survive. Nature, the cold, thin fur can't survive up there. So I bet if you turned all the dogs in the world loose in Alaska, within 20 years, all you'd see is the wolf-type body style, thick fur. If you turned all the dogs in the world loose in the desert, go back in 100 years, all you're going to find is, thin fur, dingo, long legs, skinny body. They survive better in hot weather. The wolf survives better in cold weather. That's not evolution. It's natural selection or artificial selection, where somebody decides, I want brown cows or white cows. Either way, you're selecting a pre-existing gene code. So to go from a few thousand animals, probably about 8,000 kinds on the ark. Keep in mind, Noah did not have to have fish on the ark. They had plenty of water outside, okay? He didn't have to have bugs on the ark. Insects, they don't breathe through their nostrils. They could survive on floating log mats and dead carcasses. But about 8,000 kinds of animals is the current estimate from bearmanology.com. Those 8,000 animals turning into all the varieties today, not a problem. Turning from a rock into all the ones today, big problem.
All right. Thank you for that response there, Kent. Much appreciated. And Ryan, we'll hand it over to you if there's anything you'd like to add. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question, and you're wrong on that. I mean, even if you don't call them species, the variations, whatever you want to call them, if you started from those 8,000, you would have up to 8 to 11, 12 every single day, new variations being discovered and found. I mean, this would be a big event. This would be something that people would notice, but they didn't, because it didn't happen like that. So yeah, it's a great question. You don't get millions of species from, or variations or kinds or whatever you want to call them, from thousands on the ark. It just doesn't happen because it didn't happen.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. And Kent, question was for you. You get the last word.
No, I think that's fine. I have to watch the video when we get to heaven and see how it happened, but I don't think that's a problem to go from thousands to millions of what we have now decided to classify as species. The animals don't care how we classify them. Turn all the animals loose in the woods. The dogs seek out the dogs to mate with, not the pine trees or the porcupines. They know. We might not know if it's the same kind. They know. And like my wife so brilliantly said recently, how did that fish know to find the female of his kind? He doesn't even know what he looks like. How does he know what she looks like? He's got eyes going this way. He's never seen himself, never seen a mirror. But they know. Tell you what, turn all the animals loose. The sheep seek out the sheep. They don't look for the cows to mate with. Don't even think about them. So I think they know what the same kind are. And to produce all the kinds from a few thousand on the ark, I don't see a problem with that. But I'm not asking that be taught at my taxpayers' expense.
Okay, Ken, thank you so much for that final word. Next question comes in from Patty Smith, $10 super chat. Thank you for the support and question. This one is for you, Ryan. So Patty's asking, Seleucus, hopefully I said that right, are the oldest dog breeds and closest genetically to wolves. Why can you easily breed nearly any dog from Seleucus, but using only Seleucus offspring, you cannot turn them back to wolves? Why is this?
Well, that's kind of you could ask that with any animal. I mean, to turn it back into something that it was, I guess you could with enough time and enough of the, going back to wolves again. But again, I don't know. I'm sorry. Like I said, I'm not an expert on any of this. I'm really not. And I'll never make the claim that I am. So yeah, I don't know. It's interesting and I'll look into it and then probably even make a video about it. But yeah, other than that, I don't know. Sorry.
Okay, Ryan, appreciate the response. And looks like it's pronounced Saluki. So thanks to Grayson in the chat. And over to Kent, if you had anything to add. Kent, the floor is yours.
No, I don't. I don't. Yeah, I'm not in dog breeding kind of stuff. I let them breed themselves. But the Bible says they're going to bring forth after their kind. That's all we've ever seen. The Chihuahua, Great Dane are obviously the same kind. I mean, it's in there 24 times in the first 7 chapters. They're going to bring forth the same kind, the same sort. And that's science. That's real science. Anything else is not science.
Okay, appreciate it, Kent. Ryan, did you want a quick final word since it was for you?
Yeah, I guess. I'm sure. I want to say I don't think you could get back to a wolf. You could get maybe back to a dog-like creature that has some wolf traits and are closer to a wolf, but I guess, I just don't see that working. But again, sorry if I didn't answer that adequately. Not an expert, so.
Okay, no worries. Ryan, thanks so much. Next question comes in for Pseudonym, and appreciate it. Looks like this question is for Kent. I've got it up on screen. I guess we'll read it together here. Why are there snow leopards, polar bears, penguins, and kangaroos found in specific regions? Like, did they hold hands and survived off Noah's Ark despite distance? So I guess why is this the case, Dr. Hovind? Go ahead.
Well, I think animals tend to hang out with their own kind. The leopards like to hang out with leopards, and they don't like to hang out with coyotes. Don't like to hang out with donkeys. That's for sure. They send them flying. So I think that there are getting off the ark. They would tend to go with their own kind. If you watch my video number 6 on my series, I cover very carefully about the animals spreading out from Noah's Ark. If the ice caps were larger on the planet, which obviously they were at one time, there were ice caps clear down to Kansas City, Missouri. Nobody argues with that. If the ice caps are bigger, that means the oceans are smaller because the water is frozen, stuck on the poles. If the oceans are smaller, all the continents are connected just by the continental shelf. If you lowered the ocean about 40 feet, and it's 12,000 feet deep, if you took 40 feet of water or 100 feet of water out of the ocean and froze it, you could walk to Australia from Asia. So because the land bridge in there, underwater land bridge. So just Google continental shelf and take a look. You'll see it. It's obvious. The oceans were smaller in the past because the continents, or because everything was frozen on the poles. So I think there's not a problem at all to claim that the animals could get around the world in the first few hundred years, or maybe 1,000 years after the flood, while the ice melted back and slowly raised the level.
Okay, thank you, Kent. Ryan, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, they didn't, obviously. They just, evolved or into different species, kinds, variations, whatever words you want to use, and evolved in that area because of its surroundings and environments. I would like to know if the other option is true, the they spread out from a single point from an arc. Why there's no evidence of that at all? There's no, bodies along the way. I guess they all made it in one stretch, didn't die. I don't know. Seems unlikely, but we'll see.
Okay, Ryan, thank you. Kent, if there's a final word you wanted to make, question was for you. Go ahead.
No, that's going to be a great video to watch in heaven, how they spread out around the world, and I'll try to get the message down to Ryan, how it happened. I like that. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much, Kent. Okay, next question comes in from Paper Bag Man. Question for Ryan, and he's asking, let's see here, can you refute Kent's point about the moon being too close or the Earth spinning too fast if the Earth is billions of years old? Ryan, what are your thoughts?
Definitely would need to, I would like to look into it a little better, but just off the top of my head, the acceleration rate would be one thing. It's not going to be moving as fast away from the Earth the entire time. Even if it was, people just aren't comprehending distance correctly and scale and time. And it doesn't, again, I don't know for sure. I can't refute it great in detail scientifically or nothing like that. As I've said many, many times, not an expert. And I would personally, though, like to look into this and figure it out for myself. So, I will eventually.
Okay, Ryan, thank you for the response there. And to Paper Bag Man, thanks for the question. Kent, over to you if you had anything to add.
Well, I think he needs to argue with NASA. NASA has said very clearly, they've studied it carefully as anybody. They want to go land on that big rock up there. And they think the moon is receding 3.8 centimeters, or almost an inch and a half, over half an inch and a half a year. And they did the recession rate and said, wow, 1.2 billion max. Oh, well, forget that. We know it's billion. We know it's 4.6, so forget it. No, let's not forget it. Let's not bypass evidence that goes against your religion. The evidence is clear. You can't have billions of years. I know you need it, but you can't have it. Scientifically, not available. If I said this ink pen is 10,000 years old, it would be easy to refute that. Very easy. I don't know when it was made. I don't care, but it's not 10,000. I could easily refute this pen, this pen being 10,000 years old, easily. I can easily refute the Earth being billions of years old. It doesn't prove it's 6,000, but it ain't billions, that's for sure. The salt in the ocean, the spin of the Earth, the moon, the population of the Earth. There's all kinds of scientific indicators that say it can't be billions. Sorry, you can't have it.
Okay, Kent, thanks for that response. Ryan, if you wanted a quick final word, go ahead.
Yeah, as I've said, I don't know a lot about this. I do know for a fact that NASA didn't say that. But anyway, sorry that I don't know, again, a lot about it, but I will look into it.
Okay, thank you so much there, Ryan. And we're going to start wrapping it up here now that we hit the 90-minute mark with one or two more questions. So let's see here. I'll make sure to pick the most on-topic ones. This one comes in from Michael Diaz for Kent's opponent. So for you, Ryan, where does the new information come from? By what mechanism can mutations create additional building code?
Yeah, so try to answer the best I can. New information is simply just a mutation. That's all it is. It's changing a, T to a G, A to a C, whatever. So to say where it comes from is kind of a weird way to look at it, but it's usually there's natural selection, obviously one of the more prominent and popular ones, but there's also artificial selection, all different forms of evolution. But it changes very just a very minimal small change that basically means nothing, but over a long time they do add up to something. So where does it come from? Could just depends on what organism or creature we're talking about. And what is it? What mechanisms can mutations create additional building code? I don't know. Sorry, I'll look more into it again, like most things.
All right, thanks for the answer there, Ryan. And Kent, over to you.
An amoeba does not have a heart, brain, lungs, pancreas, arms, blood vessels, skin, hair. There's trillions of things amoebas do not have. There's a whole lot of information, or protozoa or bacteria, whatever you want, okay? They don't have any of that. To change from a single-celled creature to all these features that we have today and claim it is science is ludicrous. I'm sorry. It's not science. That's a great question. Where did the information come from to change your protozoa or whatever you want to start with into all these things today? I'd like to know that also. I don't think there's an answer other than just imagine. over billions of years. It's all you have. Imagination, Ryan. I feel sorry for you.
Thank you, Kent. Ryan, if you wanted a quick final word, go ahead.
Yeah, hold on. I will screenshot this question real quick and find it out. And next debate, if I'm, lucky or fortunate enough to come back and debate you, Mr. Hovind, I'll have a better answer for you. But yeah, it does happen. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what else to tell you. You believe in evolution as well. You believe in a very rapid form of it. So regardless of where it comes from or all that, things evolve. There's no question about that.
No question.
Okay, gentlemen, final question for the night. Great debate. And to the audience, lots of excellent questions. So I appreciate you guys being so engaged in this always fun topic, evolution on trial. So Mike Corleone, question for Ryan. What part of evolution is scientifically provable and how?
Yeah, so part of evolution, I mean, evolution is a scientific theory, and it's a process in which things evolve, things change. That happens. Even if you can't observe all the way from billions of years ago, something changing into something today, blah, blah. And yes, I know dogs don't produce non-dogs and all that, but things do evolve. Everything evolves. It's not just life. Like everything in our lives evolves, inanimate and alive. And I don't know how scientifically to prove, a particular part of it. I'm sorry. As I've said, I'm not an expert. But the thing is, the other option is just, I just don't get how that's better. I mean, that's just ridiculous. You're going by a book written 2000 whatever so years ago that was mistranslated and misinterpreted so many different times by different generations of humans, and then relying on it to base your entire worldview around instead of a scientific process. But I don't know.
Thank you, Ryan. Kent, over to you.
Oh,
Kent, I think you might be on mute.
There
you go.
Okay, there we go. Ryan, you're basing your entire worldview on a bunch of humans who believe they came from a rock slowly over billions of years. I don't think that's common sense either. Okay, so what is observable is variations within the kind. Unfortunately, someone chose to call that microevolution, and that he's hung up on that word evolution, and he's going to cling to that. Oh, look, here's evolution. Therefore, it's all true. I think it's true that all the potatoes had a common ancestor. I don't think it's true that you have an ancestor with potatoes. Now, you can believe that, but that's not science. So what is observable is potatoes produce potatoes. Humans produce humans. That's observable. It is not observable to say anything else is science, and it's not part of science. It's polluting our science. I want to be the hero and come along and rescue science from this dangerous contamination that has crept in called evolution. It's a contamination. It's a religious cult, nothing more.
Thank you very much, Kent. And this was the final question, and the question was for you, Ryan. We'll give you the final word if you'd like it. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So you want to be the hero and save it all. I mean, you haven't done it in 30, 40 years yet, but maybe one day. So, yeah, I got really nothing else to add to it. Just thanks again for having me, and I'm sure we'll be wrapping up here. So.
Okay, Ryan and Dr. Hovind, that wraps up the audience Q&A and the debate. So we've endured to the end. It's been a fantastic debate, very lively discussion. And so before we completely wrap it up, let's just have some quick final words, final thoughts. Ryan, that kind of sounded like that was your quick final word, final thought. If you wanted to add anything, go ahead. Then we'll hand it to Kent.
No, just, thanks again. I always appreciate coming, and it is always fun. I always learn something interesting. That's for sure.
All right. Well, my pleasure. These debates are always some of the more fun debates, evolution on trial. So thank you again, Ryan, for being willing to engage in this topic. And Kent, over to you. Thank you as well for your time tonight. Quick final words, final thoughts. Go ahead.
Well, one thing for sure, we're all going to die. You're going to be dead for a long time, real long time. George Washington died over 220 years ago. He's still dead. You're going to die one day. Where are you going? Smoking or non-smoking? Choice is up to you. I'm going to die one day. I'm going to try to make it the last thing I do. I've been working real hard to make it the last thing I do, but so far I'm working out. But I'm going to die, and I want to take what this little life I've got and use it for the Lord. I'd like to challenge Christians. What are you doing for the Lord with your life? If you're not a Christian, why not? Who made you? Why would you think you made yourself over billions of years from an amoeba? Why would anybody believe such a thing? We have videotapes. We got all kinds of stuff. You can get my videos, watch them, send them back, get your money back. We're not in this for the money. If you want to buy a set of tapes, buy them, watch them, copy them, then send them back, get your money back. It's always been our policy. We want to help. We want to see everybody get saved and come to heaven, give their heart to the Lord. So that's our goal. Called to drdino.com, 855-BIG-DINO. I'm extension 3. If you want to talk to me, if you want to order our tapes, go to extension 1. Come visit Dinosaur Adventureland in Lenox, Alabama. Ryan, you're invited. I'll give you the tour.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for those final words, final thoughts. Kent, and also to Ryan, thanks for an excellent debate. To the audience, thanks for tuning in. And we are going to wrap it up here. I'm going to let the debaters out. As usual, I'll stick around for 2 minutes going over some announcements and reminders. So I'll be back. But to the debaters, thanks again. God bless.